Hey guys, welcome back to Assistive Insight. My name is Aishwarya, and today I'm here with Dan Rosen, and we are going to be talking a little about Crohn's disease today. So, how's it going today, Dan?
It's going okay today. Thank you. Yeah, doing well. How about
Good, good.
yourself?
I'm well, yeah. It's just, it's Sunday morning and I just woke up, so
Yeah, same.
yeah. So, we can just get straight into it because I know Zoom has like a time limit on these videos, so
Sure thing.
Okay, so just to start off, do you want to talk a little about, I know you said you were diagnosed at 11, so do you kind of just want to provide a little insight on your diagnosis till now, the time in between?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I was diagnosed at 11. I lucked out because both my parents are physicians, and so they could see some of the signs, so they knew that something was up. It was like all of a sudden at the age of, like at 10 and a half, I was like losing a lot of weight, constantly in the bathroom. And so I had a bunch of tests and got the diagnosis. And then after the diagnosis at 11, things, we had some medication, like tried like five or six different medicines till got the right one. And things seemed to more or less calm down. And then all of a sudden, when I was in grade 11, at age 16, I just got really sick, and it turns out I had like a bowel obstruction. It's one of those things where like a lot of people think bowel obstructions are like, well, you've got like a piece of broccoli lodged halfway down your intestine or something, but it's what it was is just food I was eating or whatever was aggravating the part of my intestine where like the small intestine connects to the large intestine, and so like inflammation built up. So it was just like there was like a millimeter of space for food to pass through where normally it would be, like
Right,
a few
right.
centimeters.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, I had to try to do like, a very restrictive diet to help it go away, and it just wouldn't. And I got sick and hospitalized again. So then I had a surgery. And then I think I switched medications again, which worked for a few more years. And then when I was 22, same thing happened. Switched new meds that helped stave things off until I graduated university. And then literally like a few months after, or about a year after I graduated, I then got again another bowel obstruction. Like it came up again. And so then we're like, all right, another surgery. But after that, since then, the medicine, I stayed on that medicine, and it's kept me good for the most part.
Mhm.
Other than when I was 25, I then also had an anal abscess, which is like basically like a big inflammational thing in your butt. And yeah, there'll be a lot of poop humor and butt jokes and stuff. But yeah, and so then it just grew, and then like that had to be removed.
Right.
And but since then, I've been pretty much symptom free since I was for the last 13 years or so. I
Mhm.
mean, symptom free in that there's not like a lot of physical Crohn, like no more inflammation and stuff like that. But I still have scar tissue in my intestines from where I've been sick, and still get flare ups and bad days and weeks and stuff like that.
So you mentioned you were 16 when you had to go through your like first round of surgeries or and then you got put on a new medication and then you had to, go on a restrictive diet. So I'm assuming you were in high school at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So how did that affect your day-to-day high school life? Because I know like a restrictive diet as a growing high school teenager, like I don't know.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Whereas, like, what, don't eat the candy that all my friends are eating. Don't
Yeah.
eat lots of like fries and like, other, yeah, like popcorn and stuff like that. Yeah, like, I mean, I ended up having to have surgery. So clearly I wasn't the greatest at keeping that restrictive diet.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite snack, my favorite snack of all time has been like peanut M&Ms. And I haven't had peanut M&Ms in years because like I can't have peanuts. I can have peanut butter. So I eat so many things, so many favorite things I now have to eat in like mush form. So like peanut butter, guacamole, like hummus instead of, chickpeas, stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's very tough to tell a high school, like you said, like a growing high school student. And like I'm trying to gain weight, but I'm like looking like a short cousin of the Slender Man kind of thing. So it's very like Like I was all skin and bones, and yeah, just very, yeah, like not really able to eat. And if go out with friends, be like, hey, we'll go to the movies, get lots of snacks, and then I'm like, yeah, super fun, and then the next day I feel like garbage, and so yeah.
Did having all those surgeries affect your high school life at all? Like, I don't know, either like your relationships or the time you spent in school, anything like that?
Definitely time in spent high school. I lucked out. I had friends who like visited me in the hospital who were pretty supportive. What's
Hmm.
really funny is I was doing grade 11 biology when I had my that when I was in 16 and having my first bowel obstruction happen. And we had to do a project where we had to pick like a disease and do a profile of it as a group. So I told my friends in my group, I'm like, oh well, we should do Crohn's disease. I've got like because I've got like literally like physical examples and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
then I got sick in the middle of doing that project. So
Oh,
then uh I was able to come back but then like in our presentation I'd be like, well, here are my x-rays of my bowel obstruction and stuff like that. So that was like the one project I did really, really well on. But then yeah, there were other stuff where like I missed tests and stuff like that. And
mhm.
you know, some teachers, I remember having a math teacher who was really supportive and being like, oh, you know, you were in the hospital for a few days, so like we'll give you some time to like restudy before you can do your next like test. And then my grade 11 biology teacher was kind of always suspicious and being like, oh, like is Dan trying to take advantage and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it was up and yeah, like up and down, like, and sometimes there'd be teachers who'd be, and at the time like this was like early 2000s, over 20 years ago, so like no one really knew much about Crohn's disease. Now it seems like everyone, they've got like at least a cousin or a friend or a coworker who has it, but back then like no one would know about it, so anyone who did have it tended to be a lot quieter
Yeah.
about it. So
Right.
yeah.
Did having this like did having this disease with you at all times? I mean, I know you mentioned you went through mental health therapy. So
Yeah.
did I'm imagining that having this negative or this disease negatively impacted you. So when did you start mental health therapy? Sorry, I just woke up. It's just like
No worries, it's all right. Boy, I mean, yeah, it was around, I think it was the second semester of grade 11. So it was a few months after my first surgery.
Mhm.
And I just remember like having a big like dip in sort of just like my mental health. All of a sudden, like just entered like a huge depression.
Mhm.
And I was talking to my dad and he's like, you know, like, of course, like, you know, get the help you need, but just so you know, like it's not uncommon after like having a surgery that, and having a big health issue that this can happen where you can dip down. And I
Right.
lucked out. I had like a clinical social worker who, instead of using medicine, he was more like, oh, here's some like cognitive behavioral therapy to help you get through it. And like, that worked really well. And I often go back to what he said. Every now and then I have had to like go back here and there, and often after having a major health issue,
What are
that
some
happens.
what are some like examples of like the cognitive behavioral therapy that might have been done?
So a big part of it was like sort of adjusting my mindset to one. I find one thing that was like one, like not focusing on like it feeling like a failure or being like, oh, like this like problem is getting in my way or whatever, and just sort of saying like, well, like, I can't help this part, but what can I do that will help? And then also doing daily like finding a daily thing that you do every day that is positive for you.
Hmm.
And so he, used an example of a patient of his who then like walked his dog every day, and that helped him. Or then, so things like either like writing, for me, I do creative writing and comedy, so like spending a few minutes to write jokes every day, or
Yeah.
like reading for 20 minutes every day, something for like some kind of activity that gets my mind in a really positive place. So that's something that's very helpful, I find.
So is that kind of is Game of Thrones like kind of your like comedic channel or like uh-huh.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. It was, in fact, I remember, where I first thought of turning Crohn's stuff into comedy was after that surgery. I found there was this website called McSweeney's that they had a section of letters to people or entities who are unlikely to respond. And so I wrote a letter to my like removed intestine from the bowel obstruction, and like it didn't get selected for the website, but it was a lot of fun to write, and it really helped like channel things. And I even like showed it to my drama teacher, and she thought that she was like, oh, this is great. Like she was very supportive of that. And after that, I started thinking more and more about it. And I had a friend of mine, a roommate, who she did a lot of these one-person shows, these like, comedy shows that she did that were really great. And then I was like, oh, I think I want to do one about Crohn's disease. And then she was like, you could call it Game of Crohn's. And then we were like, oh, and like I could be on like the throne, but it's like toilet and plungers instead. And then, like it spiraled from there. And it's been, because like when I was just thinking about, like I got to do about 4 or 5 festivals. I got to perform it for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of Canada when they had a big annual conference in Toronto. And so stuff like that has been great because, there have been people then who come up to me and then they're like, yeah, like I went through all the same stuff. And so it's been nice to like, been a great, very cathartic and also a great way to connect, I found.
Right, a great way to connect with people and just kind of share your experiences and kind of make a joke out of it, but
yeah. Well, I find like then it doesn't feel as daunting. If I make fun of it, then it's not like, oh no, like it's got all this power. It takes away the power, I find.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess behavioral therapy was very, very helpful because it inspired all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm a huge fan of therapy for, helping get through things like that. And just in general, like just to every now and then, like if you don't feel like you need it, on an indefinite weekly basis, just every now and then going back, because having those like mental health crises, and sometimes I've gone into therapy not even just because of Crohn's related things, but because of other stuff. But I just find it always kinds of rewrites, gets me back on course.
Yeah. So did these values you learned over time, like from Crohn's, from facing that at such a young age, from therapy, from creating your own almost business like with Game of Crohn's, how is that, like, because I know you said you're a family man now, so how has that affected like your, I don't know, your relationship with your family, how you are a father, how has that affected that?
It's definitely, I'd say it probably has made me calmer under if there's like a health issue for my son, for example. So like when something like that happens, we're definitely calmer. We're like, all right, like, daddy's had experience with stuff like this. And my son just turned 4. He's very much in like a potty humor phase. So in that way, it's also really helped me connect comedically with my son, because we're told like to discourage all his, like he says poo poo jokes on like poo poo head everything all the time, but like I'll be like, no Milo, not poo poo head. But then like we'll make fart jokes all the time. We laugh at each other's farts, and like it's just so it's oddly helped me like connect with my son. And then just also, there are times, thankfully, I've, the best partner. My wife, she's very great at, like, she really understood from an early stage, maybe because I mentioned it all on our first date, but she, like, is, if I tell her, like, like we'll be, let's say, driving home from, being out all day, and then I'll be like 5-10 minutes away, I'll be like, what, as soon as we get home, I need to go to the bathroom. So then like she'll like drop me off in front of our building. I'll like run into the lobby bathroom, and then she'll park, and then I go upstairs and meet them. Yeah. So having someone who like you can really tag team in that way, and then if when the shoe's on the other foot and she needs support for something, then I can give that to her.
Right. Yeah. So I guess what you would take away from that is it's very important to have bonds with other people in relationships that can help you through tough times like that, right?
For sure. Because I think like pardon me, even like as wonderful as my wife is, she'll never fully get or fully understand what it's like. And I like, and one of the things also is me coming to terms with that, but that she will be as close as possible as someone can to that. And even my parents, who are doctors, like my dad, for example, like he loves like spicy foods, or there's certain things that he likes, and I'll just be like, oh, I'll have to like remind him, like, but Dad, when I like come over for dinner or something like that, I can't have that, like,
Right. Yeah.
uh meal or whatever. But he, so like, but still, like at the like they're still very supportive, and they have done great things. So like, and
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to have them in my
Absolutely. Yeah.
corner. So it's just like learning, you have some like being able to find even just like one or two people who can really be your go-to, and then just, also understanding that they'll never be able to fully understand what it's like.
Right. Yeah.
But if they can be there as best as they can, then that's great.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, and a common message they have, like as advice for other people who might be going through a similar thing, is just to find people. And they're like, whether it be online through all these like forums on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, or in person, or at hospitals, they have like sometimes meetings for different people with different illnesses. The message is always just find people, because as antisocial as one person may be, like people are going to be what kind of gets you through it. Because I mean, I don't have a chronic illness myself, and obviously it's not the same, but I know that people, make me feel better. So one can only assume that it works that way for everyone.
For sure. And I think find me, it's funny because like when you talk especially about like Instagram and stuff, like that, it is one of the great things about social media when it's used the right way, is that it can really be this connection. I mean, one, that's how like we connected, and then also I remember like I used to always like roll my eyes at like, influencers who are, let's say, like they've always got their like hot, like, bikini bathing suit photos or whatever, and that's all they post. But then I remember connecting with two people through like basically just like the hashtag of Crohn's disease on Facebook or on Instagram. And so like one of them, like she would like be modeling these like bikinis, but they have like they match with your like stoma pouch cover. So it's a way to like, where like, oh, like you can still feel really cute, but like also have like your bag, your stoma pouch, where some people have it where they poo into it, like covered up. And then there was another guy who was like this like fitness guru guy who's like absolutely like shredded and jacked, but then also doing, like, so he's doing his like, that kind of like fitness influencer stuff, but it is also like to like, oh no, this is how you can help with Crohn's disease and stuff like that, and you don't have to look like me, but like just as an influencer, like don't let it get you down or stop you from your goals. And so stuff like that I think is actually really great, and kind of showed me that that there's different ways that you can connect with people, and that people can inspire each other through social media if you focus on the positive aspects and the positive things.
Like a way of raising awareness while also making people feel included, while also showing people who are not part of this category what this category is all about.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah. So other than that, would you say that you have any advice for someone who might be diagnosed with Crohn's at like a young age, or have like a similar kind of path to you?
Yeah, I would say it's one, important to not let it get you down. I think if you have, hopefully, if you can find, like, parents or even one or two friends who can really, be by your side to just let them know, like, look, this is what I'm going through. It's like, it's tough. It's weird. Like, I wouldn't necessarily compare it to like, like someone coming out, but in a way it is like coming forward to say like, oh, this is, like, this is what I have to deal with. So if I, if we're playing and then I like run to the bathroom or something like that, just know that like it's there. If I'm just all of a sudden like disappearing for 20 minutes or something like that, like it's not anything suspicious. It's just the thing that I have to deal with. And I think when you can find that friend or two, I think people in general over time, we've all collectively gotten a bit more empathetic and a bit more understanding.
Yeah.
And so I really do think you can find that one or two friends, even though if it might be tough at first, but you can find those people who will be by your side and can support you through those things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And it will get better. Yeah. Even if your symptoms get worse or you have more complications, just having people by your side makes things so much better.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, because I've spoken to this one person who she mentioned that she was kind of estranged from her family and she didn't really have like any support system necessarily. And it was really interesting to see um the way she, because the way you talk about Crohn's is like, I have it, but it's not me. It's like, it's not me. It's something else that I just deal with. The way she dealt with it was very like almost self-deprecating, and it's of course it was sad to see because I can imagine how just having like some other relationships to kind of distract you from the fact that, this is what you have, how important that is and how that affects one's view of themselves. It's like, it's pretty crazy to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's tough, and yeah, sorry to hear that for that person, and hopefully that's where like I remember, yeah, like the social media, Instagram, like just fine. I must have like done like a hashtag Crohn's or something where I posted some fart joke at some point, and then that's kind of how I connected to other people. But yeah, hopefully that can kind of, you can find the person who, yeah, find someone through there. Because I remember there was like a while where I was just, before I'd met my wife, like where we were just like, there were a couple of people who I'd be just Instagram messaging, like we DM each other back and forth about, oh, like going through this and now this. Um, but yeah, so it is, I can understand it. It's tough. But hopefully, yeah, if they can find that person or two, because there are times when you will feel isolated. I think even regardless of zero friends or a million friends, but yeah, I hope they can find someone to kind of help them out and support them.
Yeah, and a great way is to just hop on the hashtag or hop on under these
Yeah,
ones. Yeah.
because then you'll find that there's actually like it'll go from seeming like you're the only person dealing with it, like that there have been like thousands and thousands and thousands of people like who are. Like there's a point where almost I was like, oh, like everyone on my feed is like has Crohn's disease, like just because I was like had added like 30 people and we were all like they were just always showing up first thing in my feed. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I see this little timer here. I'm sorry, that's what I'm looking at. It just says
oh
that,
no.
yeah, it says that there's like 5 minutes left. So it was great talking to you. I learned a lot, and I had spoken to someone else with Crohn's disease as well, but you two have very different experiences. So that was really interesting to hear about from your point of view.
I think one of the things about Crohn's also that is important to note is that it is like there is a large variety of experiences, and even like when I do Game of Crohn's, like afterwards, often people would come up and like first thing they would go like, so what's your diet now? Like, what do you do? And some people would be everything from like a very like meat diet or like like kind of like steak and potatoes or chicken and potatoes kind of diet, and then other people who were just like straight up very strict vegan found that helped them. So it is, and like yeah, there's so many different ways it can affect you because it's everything from like your whole digestive system, everything from like your throat down to your your butt. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely like yeah, definitely a very varying experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your insights today, and thank you for joining me. It
Well,
was
thanks so much for having me, Aishwarya.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully I can talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks so
right.
much.
Have a good one.
You too.